Wow, I've heard that theme more than I heard the Barroom podcast this week. It's weird. This is a weird little week we got going here. But ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday night. We are back for the first Monday Night Movie Club of 2023. Episode number 24 here. And tonight we are here to review the film M3GAN. And I'm joined here with my regular co-host here tonight. We have Mr. Rick Aragon all the way from Texas. How you doing today, Rick?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Jacob.
And joining us from his, mattress fort in Washington is Mr. Rob Model. How you doing tonight, Rob?
Oh, pretty good. Yeah, the Titans fired most of their coaching staff today, so it was great.
Yeah, let's talk about football here for a quick second. I can't even shit on anybody because no one's team did well. The Raiders are out; they got shit on last Saturday night, and then the Titans got shit on immediately afterwards. The Jets are out of the playoffs. I mean, I guess Spencer would be happy that the Bears got the first pick. That also means that they have the worst season in football too. So I don't know. There was a whole lot of positivity to spread around there, but I mean, hey, at least at the end of the day, the Packers and the Patriots didn't get in, so there's a little silver lining.
Yeah, I mean the Seahawks, the local team here, they snuck in because the Lions won a game they had no business being in. They had nothing to gain from it other than sending Aaron Rodgers home and not to the playoffs. So congratulations to the Seahawks. I think they'll lose immediately to the Niners, but I don't know. I guess I'm rooting for the Bills and not because of the DeMar Hamlin thing, just because I'm sick of the Bengals and the Chiefs representing the AFC. So I might as well, let's see the Bills get there and finally win a Super Bowl after, kind of being a snake-bitten franchise. What was that? 4 Super Bowls in a row?
4 in a row.
80s and early 90s. That was so terrible.
I believe the Bills and the Vikings are the only teams who have been to 4 Super Bowls in a row and not win a single one. So.
Yep.
Yeah. A rough time for those franchises. And then what else we got? We got Seahawks and Niners. I mean, I wouldn't count Seattle out of that one. I mean, division games are always kind of wacky, so I wouldn't look too far into the record. You have the Chargers and the Jaguars. I'll be shocked if the Chargers lose that game. Miami and Buffalo. Like I said, I'll be shocked if Buffalo loses at home with everything going on there right now. New York and Minnesota, and I mean that's a trap game. I wouldn't put any money on that one. And then Baltimore and Cincinnati, we just saw that one repeat. And then Tom Brady's career is going to end on Monday night because I don't see any way they beat the Dallas Cowboys. So there's that.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. The Cowboys played like shit yesterday against the Commanders, and not that they had that much to gain by it, but they kept their starters in. They were playing to win, and they got their asses kicked. So Dallas is one of those really inconsistent teams that has a hell of a lot of talent, but they'll shit the bed. They'll blow out the Vikings. They beat the Vikings 40-3, and then they'll they had a 4-point lead at halftime against the Titans before it kind of ended up winning by 2 touchdowns. So they're a team that again is really talented, but if they're not careful, if they don't have the right leadership, they can just nosedive some games.
That's not possible because here I'm as you know, I'm in El Paso, so this is a Cowboy Central. Almost everyone seems passionately devoted to the Cowboys, though I do enjoy reminding people that technically Arizona is closer than Dallas is, so they would be the home team. But no, it's all Cowboys here. So I'm sure they're the Super Bowl's already guaranteed. I'm told this every year.
Well, I mean, look, it wasn't that long ago when Dallas wasn't doing anything as far as the playoffs went. I mean, it wasn't until Tony Romo was almost last season they finally won a game, and then that was a 15-year drought. So now people, I don't know, Skip Bayless is out there saying every year that the Cowboys are going to be a Super Bowl contender. Well, it's how about you guys get there once before we start talking about you guys winning a Super Bowl? So. That's all I have to feel about football. I'm just emotionally out of it at this point. I'm rooting for chaos. If there's any upsets, so be it. I mean, anyone but Seattle, I guess, but I don't care for Seattle or San Francisco. So, I mean, that one's going to be a complete wash for me. Well, speaking of complete washes, I want to go ahead and have a little chat with my buddy Rick Aragon here because you did not join us for our Saturday night movie extravaganza where we had all of the great movie critics on YouTube who were available to join the show and give us our best and worst movies of the year. Christian Toto was here, Sarah Hargett was here, we had Epic Mike from Geeks and Gamers who was here with us, Nick Weiser, Mephisto. It was a fun little night that you just happened to miss out on. So, what was your excuse for not being here with us on Saturday?
I was at work.
Oh, work.
The library is open on Saturdays, and that Saturday was my Saturday to be in. Although I did catch some of the podcasts live as I was ordering books, so I was listening in, and I managed to hear a good amount of shall I call it good-natured ribbing at my expense.
Yeah, because you've been talking about all year long that "Marry Me" was going to be a top movie for you. And then when we pretty much exposed the fact that you were going to have it on your list, you got a little upset at us. Well, what's up with that?
No, I didn't get upset. I was just trying to make the case that 2022 was so bad that something as superfluous and as trivial as "Marry Me" could keep at my top 10 for the longest time. It actually fell. It actually got dethroned. There was actually something else that got dethroned, but I will share that later if you so wish.
Oh God, I'm sorry that I rolled my eyes there. It wasn't what you said. It was literally someone in our chat just said that Stacey Abrams is going to try to run for governor for a third time after 2 straight losses. And then I like to do a literal eye roll at the thought that she would be coming back. But outside of that little derail of the show here, I figured it was only fair since you weren't here Saturday night that we give you a little time to talk about what you consider to be your best and worst movies of the year. So we're going to go ahead and give the floor to Rick here so he can explain to everyone what he thought was the best and worst movies of the year. Let's start with the best. Let's get the good movies out of the way. Then we can go ahead and move on to the worst.
All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run the list from 10 to 1, and I'm not going to offer any explanation unless you guys or somebody wants like an explanation as to how it managed to get there.
Okay.
Because I know I have a habit of maybe rambling on, which I'm working on. Okay, so I had to pull up this. All right, starting at 10, I Would Dance with Somebody. 9, The Black Phone. 8, The Menu. 7, Ambulance. 6, Death on the Nile. 5, Hustle. 4, Minions: The Rise of Gru. 3, Elvis. 2, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and my number one choice, Top Gun: Maverick.
Okay, so what was your rationale on some of those best films that you had on there?
Because I had too many films at my bottom that were just terrible, and so by default, some of these others kept getting pushed up. And anyone interested, "Marry Me" is at number 12.
So you didn't think that like Blonde was better than like some of those titles, even with the issues that you have with it, because you had said Ana de Armas at least gave a really good performance. I'm just curious.
Oh yes, Ana de Armas. When I submitted my names for the Online Film Critics Society reviews for our award show, Ana de Armas was my number one choice for actress. The problem I had with Blonde was that it was far too long for me to enjoy, and I grade, I guess, kind of on a scale where I decide which would I rather watch. Would I rather watch movie A or movie B? And if I would rather watch movie A, that one goes above movie B. I gave Blonde a mildly negative review because A was very long and it was very difficult to sit through. I thought they could have cut out a lot without really impacting it. I wasn't bothered by any of the controversy or the scandals because I know it's based on a novel, so it's not a biopic.
Right.
It's not something that, oh my gosh, it's a violation of Marilyn Monroe. So that was an issue. I think for me the biggest issue was length. I thought it was far too long, unnecessarily long. So that's why I gave it a mildly negative review.
Yeah.
So that's I know that you're enamored of that movie, but even RT threesomes are not something that I enjoy.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yes, he did. Well, I mean, it sounds like you had no problem coming up with your worst list of the year. So go ahead and give people your worst 10 movies of 2022.
All righty, all right. Yeah, I really spoiled choice. So let me see. 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Starting at 10, Moonfall. 9, Morbius. 8, Bullet Train. 7, Honk for Jesus, Save My Soul.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
6,
Okay.
Not Okay. 5,
Only 6?
yeah, I know. 5, Corey Begins, also known as Halloween Ends. 4, Bros. 3, Triangle of Sadness. Number 2, The Gray Man. Actually, number 2, because I found something I hated even more than The Gray Man. And my number 1 worst film of the year, Hollywood Babylon. I know it's Babylon, but I like calling it Hollywood Babylon.
Wow, so you gave that one your number one worst movie of the year.
Yeah,
So,
I would sooner watch The Gray Man than watch Babylon again.
well, as you know, a couple of weeks ago we were supposed to review Babylon, but obviously I had something come up, so we ended up canceling that show. So we never did really talk about in detail our thoughts about that film. So since it is your worst film of the year, go ahead and kind of explain why you hated that film so much that it knocked off The Gray Man for you.
All right. Well, first off, again, length. It was a 3 hour plus film. I didn't think it had a plot. It spent the first 35 minutes in this bacchanalia that really made Gore Vidal's Caligula look like an after school special. I mean, it was you had literal dung thrown at you on the screen with the elephant there, the literal elephant in the room, and I thought, my gosh, there's a literal elephant in the room. How could this be considered brilliant? And I mean, it's clear that Chazelle knows film and film history. You had Lady Faye, the sort of mix of Anime Wong and Marlena Dietrich.
Yeah.
So he stole that from Morocco. He stole that bit. Then you had the Singing in the Rain number, which, if people don't know, that came from the Hollywood Review of 1929, I think, when all the stars got there. So I was thinking, yeah, I appreciate the fact that you got all this, but there was no story. It just kind of seemed to go on and on and on and on. Margot Robbie as the Wild Child, which I take it is their version of Clara Bow and the It Girl. That's where we get the expression "the It Girl" from a movie called It, because
Yeah.
that's where Clara Bow started. And then somehow the I'm supposed to believe that all of this inspired Singing in the Rain. That is such an absurdity. Because yeah, Singing in the Rain was inspired more by the songs that was it Condon and Green were asked to write the movie around, and they noticed that a lot of those songs came from the transition from silent to sound. So that's how they came up with a very nice, delightful story. It was spoof. The idea that Margot Robbie's character somehow inspired Lena Lamont just seems insulting, really, to everyone who made Singing in the Rain. It was very indulgent. It was unnecessarily long. I didn't think there was a plot. Um, that endless scene about when she is supposed to try to work with a microphone. I think they were trying to go for comedy, but I wasn't laughing. I was groaning. I was rolling my eyes. I thought, when
Yeah.
is this thing going to end? I absolutely hated everything about it. And when I saw the cast, you had the Hispanic, and you had the Asian, and you had the black man. I'm going, this movie's tailor made to try to qualify for Best Picture because it's meeting all of the diversity quotas that it demands. And the same people, one thing that bothered me was when you had literal blackface. And I'm thinking, the same people who don't want to show the jazz singer to people because, oh my goodness, it has blackface, are celebrating a movie that as a black put on black makeup. Now I know there's a whole reason for that, but they had a long reason in Holiday Inn also to explain why the characters were in blackface. And I'm going, it's cringy then, it's still cringy now, and I don't know how you. I know you're trying to make some kind of point here, but it's not working. And curiously enough, with Babylon and Triangle of Sadness, I've had two films where I have to see people vomit on screen, and very lengthy vomiting scenes. So I mean, there's no plot. This thing just kind of goes all over the place. It's an absolute mess, and I know that many people after La La Land decided Damien Chazelle was this wunderkind, his generation's Orson Welles, but he's not. He's not. I didn't even like La La Land. The only movie I've liked of his is Whiplash. Everything else, La La Land was overrated. First Man was cold and gave me no insight to Neil Armstrong. I mean, I was watching First Man. I actually wanted to hang out with Buzz Aldrin. He seemed like a fun guy. Neil Armstrong just seemed like a walking corpse. And with Hollywood Babylon or Babylon, I just call it Hollywood Babylon. It's a mess. It's unorganized. There's no plot. Things just happen hither and yon. And I was just so unimpressed. I was desperate to get out of the theater, but I stuck out through the very end. So there you go. That's my brief thoughts on.
And so Brad Pitt is supposed to be Douglas Fairbanks or what?
Well, I think he's supposed to be more John Gilbert.
Okay.
But again, they stole that thing of when he's on screen, he's supposed to say "I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you." Yeah, he's more yeah, he's kind of a Douglas Fairbanks, John Gilbert type.
Mm.
But there are other reasons. There are other reasons why it didn't work for me. So it's just I kept seeing a lot of parallels. You had Clara Bow, and I mean, I'm sorry, even by the decadent standards of the silent era, you would not have had the Wild Child kind of be as almost pornographic as it was, and that whole thing in the beginning with them crashing this party. That I mean, yes, Hollywood back then and Hollywood now was probably decadent and over the top, but not to this level. Not to this level. I mean, Babylon.
I would argue maybe more so now than then, but still, yeah.
Maybe. I mean, Babylon is a type of film that makes me thankful for the Hayes office to come in and rein these people.
Well, it's not the Matrix. What is it? The Matrix Revolutions or the Matrix Reloaded? With
the second one.
Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It'd be one thing if it was like the end of the world, some dystopia, some last tenet of humanity. It's fucking Hollywood in the 1920s. Stop trying to make it more epic. I mean, it was already epic. Don't oversell it. Don't make it bigger than it was because you just look like you have egg on your face.
And Christian brought this up during the movie review show. It was like the biggest disconnect here is that this whole movie is supposed to be like a love letter to Hollywood, but you start off by introducing the audience to like some old fat obese dude getting pissed on by some cocaine stripper who may or may not have died at some point during the movie, and then the next thing you know it's this giant like orgy filled drug party, like it's at the fourth circle of hell, and you're just sitting here like, oh, so this is who we're supposed to be idolizing and celebrating here, these people who were trailblazers for film and cinema. It's like I don't think the message there is being connected as well as you want it to be.
No, and then you think about the people who started in early film, the D.W. Griffiths and Mary Pickfords and Cecil B. DeMille and Lillian Gish, Dorothy Gish. These people were craftsmen. These people really cared about the art form. Mary Pickford was America's sweetheart. She was not out, coked out of her mind, trying to get some drug lore to pay off their debts. And Lillian Gish, I mean, she was the epitome of class. D.W. Griffith, he's a great filmmaker. And I guess that German that who was it? I don't remember who was playing Spike Jonze. Was supposed to be like a Erich von Stroheim or F.W. Murnau type.
Murnau, yeah.
Like, what is the point of all of this? The sets were not, I don't think, were anywhere as chaotic where people were literally getting killed. Although I think when they made the first Ben Hur, I think some of the people did drown in the ocean during
Yes.
the climatic battle scene or with the sea, but those were more accidents. They weren't deliberately trying to kill them as they did.
Right.
And no, I just didn't buy any of it. And yes, it's supposed to be at the end. The end has this long, big montage of all these different films that came after 1952 when the movie
Yeah.
ends, and it's supposed to be, oh, isn't cinema great? Well, not the way you made it, because it's such a chaotic, convoluted mess. The idea that the movie has a very strong chance of getting a Best Picture nomination, or any of these other people getting nominated for anything, it's ridiculous. There's it's a disservice. I think it's a disservice to Anime Wong, the Lady Faye character. To I mean, I don't know if Anime Wong was a lesbian in real life. It's irrelevant to me, but to just kind of portray her as just that, and
Well,
then
they have
just
to get that checkbox in there somehow. So
yeah, and to steal from Marlene Dietrich's one of her best known roles when she's in basically drag. Although the song "My Friend's Pussy" that was a curious thing, but if you saw that big orgy at the very beginning, you had that midget doing a pogo stick on a gigantic dildo. I'm going, yeah, that this is from Caligula. This is something that even that Bob Guccione and Gore Vidal would think is a little crass, and you get to see simulated sex. I mean, the whole thing just was absurd. And I guess that fat guy, I'm assuming, was kind of like a oh golly, I can't remember his name, Fatty Arbuckle type,
yeah.
and or he's supposed to be some studio executive. And the mixing of these fictional characters with real life people, Ring Thalberg and William Randolph Hearst, Marion Davies. I think Marion Davies has been put through a lot already with Mank and with kind of negative portrayal in Citizen Kane. That's supposed to be, supposed to be
Right.
Marion Davies. She
Yeah.
was she was, if you see her movies, she was actually very light, and she was a wonderful comedian.
Mhm.
She deserves a lot better than this. She wasn't some two-bit bimbo,
Right.
and I didn't understand any of it. I mean, I understood it, but I didn't understand the point. It's not a love letter to Hollywood. It's an obscenity. I mean, some things were just so over the top. I don't need to see uh, women vomit over William Randolph Hearst. Maybe that's what they wanted to see in real life. Kind of to get back at him because he's supposed to be some sort of crazed right winger. I don't know. I don't care. But it's a second, again. It's a second film I have to see where rich people are vomited on. It's pointless. It was hideous. It was just a mess. And if it gets nominated for Best Picture, you're just going to hear this massive scream come from El Paso.
Well, I'll say this. We talked about this on the Barroom last week with Margot Robbie, and we talked about this a little bit last night with Culture as well, because there's been a question about whether Brad Pitt has ever really been like a box office draw in any real capacity. And you look at this film. This is a film, Babylon. According to sources with a Deadline, they said this film needed $250 million worldwide just to break even. As of this moment, it has made $13.5 million, and it's been out for almost a month. So this is a massive, massive bomb. That's $236 million in the hole Paramount is for this film. Maybe they thought that people would appreciate the quote-unquote history of Hollywood more than they thought. Maybe they thought that Margot Robbie was actually a big star, and Brad Pitt's attached, so people love Brad Pitt, and nothing about this film connected like whatsoever. Now, I actually like the film a lot better than you did. I wouldn't have put it on my worst list, but you have to look at, the tone of this film just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. A lot of the creative decisions didn't make a lot of sense. If you wanted this to be a true love letter to Hollywood, you probably should have cut out maybe about 40 minutes of this film entirely, and you probably would have had a much better movie if you had just left a lot of the degenerate shit out of it. And then we're talking about Margot Robbie being box office poison. This is her worst drawing movie, I think, in her entire career as a leading actress up to this point. So it seems like the box office returns for her are getting smaller and smaller with every movie that comes out.
Let me ask you this: in that very lengthy scene where she's supposed to do her very first sound film, and she keeps missing the mark, and it's getting more and more difficult. Did you? I mean, were you surprised at the end result of the man in the camera booth? Did that shock you, or
I
were
just
you
thought it
expecting
was
it?
unnecessary. Like I just didn't know like why. Cause like I said, it seemed like a running theme as like, oh yeah, back before like labors and stuff like that, people just died on movie sets and it was normal and it was no big deal. But I actually did kind of like that scene, like up to the point where she was getting frustrated by the sound guy always yelling at her and says, "No, you're in the wrong spot," or "I can't hear, I got to start over," because it's like stuff like that does happen like in the movie set. And I did kind of like the build up to them finally getting the shot and the take that they actually needed, and then you kind of like drop that back off with, oh, the guy in the booth that we stuck in there, he's dead. It's like, oh, okay, well, you
Because
just shit all over
he
that
was,
scene.
yeah, he was overcome by, I guess, heat stroke.
Yeah,
The thing is that they did that much better in Singing in the Rain, when they're going to get the dialogue, and they have to hook it up on her and put it in the bush, and
yeah,
that was actually worked, and it was brief. You establish things and move things forward. This just went on and on. You could have edited this faster to say, constant takes, constant takes, constant takes, to get it right, And that
yeah.
whole thing with Toby Maguire, that was
Yeah, I felt like they
what?
completely wasted Toby in that film. Like, I actually like Toby. I thought he could have been far better utilized. But and that's another point you could talk about, like plot holes and stuff. It's like apparently alcohol and drugs are readily available on movie sets, but cups of water to keep people from dying of heat strokes is apparently not a thing that happens. So, yeah,
Yeah, so no, I thought it was a disservice. The people who made silent films, a lot of them genuinely cared to make something good. They did not, they weren't all into booze and drugs and all of this. It was a terrible disservice to people that they were trying to honor, I guess, this way. It's
yeah,
and yeah, look up what is it, my friend's pussy, or
yeah. That was Cassie's comment.
yeah. Yeah, I will not be singing that unless I hope it's not an original song. I'd hate for it to be nominated for best original song. So,
Don't be shocked. That's all I have to say.
all right.
Quick little shout out to Cassie and Osnard, who are both joining us in the chat tonight. So yeah, that's kind of our thoughts on the film Babylon. Like I said, all the hype, it didn't have to be 3 hours and 5 minutes and all that nonsense. And then I don't know, maybe they'll still try to reward it somehow to make it seem like it was a success, because audiences just completely said absolutely not to this film. So I don't know how they try to turn this one around. But
I don't know how they thought that maybe just saying from director Damien Chazelle. I mean, I don't think a lot of
the
people
guy
know who
from
he
La La
is.
Land, you
Yeah,
remember La La Land, right?
yeah. I know it was the greatest musical ever made, but
Hmm.
I don't understand why people. He shouldn't have won Best Director, first off. But apparently, again, he's considered some sort of wunderkind, and I don't think he is. I don't say he's not talented. I still love Whiplash, but let's say that his movies have had diminishing returns. It's a case of peaking too soon, in my opinion. Who knows? He might make something
Well,
better.
La La Land was kind of like the Oscar bait that actually worked, because like it did make because it was, keep in mind, that was only made for like $30 million, so it wasn't like a massive budget film, but because of the popularity that it had at the time, it was a success box office wise. I think right after that, when he did First Man with Ryan Gosling, and that's when they tried to give him a bigger budget, and that one just completely flopped. I don't even think that one broke even as far as that one goes. And then it's like, okay, now we're gonna wait another 4 years and give you guys Babylon and keep this guy's name fresh, as if some people like remember who this guy was going back there. So I mean, I don't know.
No, and I mean, yeah, La La Land was Oscar bait. It did win Best Picture for like a minute or two, so that's a
Yeah.
plus.
All right. Well, before we get started with our feature film, I know Rob has a movie that he wants to talk about here. It's been a rough year for Christian Bale. He starred in Thor: Love and Thunder, which made my worst of list of the year. So that was a very bad movie. Then he also starred in Amsterdam, which made my honorable mentions of terrible movies this year. So he's had a rough go of it. But then apparently he had, what was a Netflix movie here called The Pale Blue Eye that came out very, very late in the year. It was really under the radar. I don't think it got as much promotion as probably it should have gotten with all the Oscar bait that's out there right now. But Rob, you did go see the movie, so kind of explain to people what the film is about and what you thought about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw a couple weeks ago that this movie was coming out, starring Christian Bale, and he's teaming up with Scott Cooper again, which he's worked with him a few times, I think. I think the first one was Out of the Furnace, which has a weird connection to John Fetterman, by the way, really bizarre. But anyway, he also did Hostiles, where he has to sort of take this. I think it's like a band of Native Americans across like hostile territory.
Yeah.
And so he's done some interesting work, and basically this is pre-Civil War America, so like the 1830s at the West Point Academy, a murder's taken place, and Christian Bale plays a detective trying to figure out what's going on. And as ridiculous as the setup sounds, he teams up with Edgar Allan Poe, who is a cadet at the academy. And so it's this long-winded murder mystery that's actually really beautifully shot, really beautifully captured. You can tell Scott Cooper knows how to use a camera. And it's kind of like Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. If you guys are familiar with that, or if anybody watching is familiar with that, it's sort of like this rich family is kind of at the center of this, these cadets going disappearing and having their hearts ripped out of their chest, and it's not a perfect movie. It certainly has script issues and it's flawed, but I actually felt engaged with it. It's over 2 hours long. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes long, but it actually kept me interested all the way through. And then there's this. I'm not sure if I like it or not, but there's this very big twist with 30 minutes to go. Like the whole movie's wrapped up, and then they have this very surprising twist at the end when it's like, okay, so the movie completely gets turned on its head at this point. I don't want to spoil it, but I would definitely recommend it and check it out. It's on Netflix, so it's definitely, I think, worth your time. I do not like most Netflix releases. Most of them are really crappy movies, I think. So
majority.
Yeah, go check this one out.
Yeah, we were talking about that on Saturday night too. It's like, even though a couple of movies that I put on my best of list are on Netflix, there's a big difference between being on Netflix and being produced by Netflix. And the movies that are produced by Netflix are very, very hard to come by as far as quality goes. I mean, you see, there was a bunch of movies this year released by starring like Kevin Hart and like Mark Wahlberg that were just absolutely abysmal. And like you have the films like Rebel Wilson. I'm not sure if you guys heard of like Senior Year, but it's like, what do any of these movies need to exist at this point? It's like, how is Netflix making any money? Well, technically they're not. They're like billions of dollars in debt, but it's like, yeah, you're billions of dollars in debt producing crap like this, and you wonder why you can't catch a float. So
yeah, I will say this about the movie: it definitely takes its time, and if I have like one critique, there are long stretches where it feels like people are just whispering to each other. And they're like 5 feet away from each other and they're whispering, and it's like, okay, that's a little, it feels a little bit like a stage play at that point, but again, it's not perfect, but I would definitely say check it out. It's worth seeing.
I find that people, when they whisper in films, that's a cinematic shorthand for, these are deep thoughts, this is a insightful commentary. Usually that's when they speak softly, that's kind of a weird message that they're saying, that this is something deep and esoteric, and unless there's a literal reason to whisper, you try to keep others from hearing you, there's no reason to whisper. But they do that a lot. I've noticed this.
Do you think it's them trying to like recreate black guys like a doll's eyes? Like, you think this
But John Fetterman also pops up in this one too, doesn't he?
Which one? The
Pale Blue Eye. He's in the pale. Yeah, he's in the Pale Blue Eye as well.
Is he?
Yep.
I did not spot him if he is.
Yeah, he's in there. So I think it's because they filmed in the town of Pennsylvania that he was the mayor of the earlier. That's why he was in that first one.
The Out of the Furnace.
Yeah. So I think they used that, and so I guess he made a cameo or a small part, and they decided to do it again, and I'm sure that's what put him over the top.
Well, there you go. I mean, like I said, I haven't checked it out, but obviously there's a few movies I need to catch up on my movie catch-ups, except they're sending out the last couple of weeks, and I'll definitely put that one on there. I mean, I know Christian Bale's a good actor. I mean, he hasn't been in very good movies recently, but I mean, the guy can still act, so hopefully we get him some positive stuff moving forward. But unless anyone else has anything to say, and my only other thing to say right now is Georgia is currently up 38-7 at halftime. So I think they may have just won the national championship, barring like an all-time great comeback here at the half. So there you go, Bulldog fans. But we are here tonight to talk about the film M3GAN. This is the first release of 2023. Now, I'm gonna ask you guys real quick. It seems like for the last like 5-6 years, maybe going back even longer than that, January has always felt like to me the graveyard of like movies, where a movie where Hollywood knows that they're not going to get a whole lot of return from it, so they're not going to put a whole lot of marketing behind it. They're just going to release it in January and hope that the new year enthusiasm draws people out there to go watch this film. So when I heard about the film M3GAN, there was a lot of hype behind it, but it's like, yeah, it's a January film. Is it really going to be that good, or is it just going to be some garbage that who's the studio behind this? Universal, which God forbid, we'll talk about Universal here in a little bit, but is this going to be something solid? Is this going to be something worth the time? The hype going into this is that, oh, it's a new age Chucky movie with more like an AI type bend to it. And, you know, the whole thing with like killer dolls. I guess you could say that the idea of Chucky in and of itself is pretty ridiculous, about like some guy possessing a doll and going around killing people. It is pretty stupid too. But you do have a slightly better concept here with like the AI, because you could say it's killed robots. It's not, you know, evil possessed things. And then you also have the question of, is this going to be woke? Is they going to be trying to put in some bullshit in here, or is this going to be a straightforward movie? I could say after watching this movie, I'm kind of in the middle about how I felt about it, because I think with this film, it borders in the line of entertaining and ridiculous. And I want to ask you guys, which one do you think it plays up more in your mind? Do you think that this film was a little bit more entertaining? Do you think it was more on the ridiculous side as far as M3GAN goes?
I mean, I tried not to take it too seriously, you know.
Yeah.
So I looked at it more of as just entertaining, even if as it got closer to the end, it kind of just went off the rails and was kind of over the top and ridiculous. So I felt engaged and entertained by it for the most part, even if some of the late stuff kind of annoyed me. It's just okay, they're just gonna go with this idea and see it to its conclusion.
No, I'm going on the entertaining side. Yeah, I thought it was, as I would say, a romp. It knew what it was. It gave the audience what it wanted. I know that the audience was engaged and laughing, but not laughing because they thought it was dumb. Laughing because they genuinely thought some of the bits were funny, and they were really involved in it. At the end, I mean, I didn't think it was over the top, completely ridiculous. But no, I was entertained, so I'm definitely on the entertained side of the debate.
Now, let's talk about James Wan here for a second, because this is a guy who clearly has a lot of connections with people at Warner Brothers and Universal. They've backed a lot of his projects over the last few years, with the exception of a couple of movies being like Aquaman and kind of the Fast and Furious movies. He's been focusing mainly on horror, and I think a lot of his earlier stuff was pretty good. I mean, he did direct the first Saw movie. He was involved in a couple of the other ones there. He was involved in a lot of the Conjuring movies and that whole universe. Annabelle, he's been producer and affiliate these films. So the guy, I would say the guy has a pretty solid track record as far as horror goes. But the last film that we saw him in, where he was in a creative capacity here, was the film *Malignant*. If you remember 2021's film, where I think it was one of those movies that kind of bordered on so bad it was actually good, because it just went so off the rails that you couldn't even hate it, even though it was clearly a terrible movie. So I think there was a lot of people worried about, okay, is this going to be another so bad that it's actually a good movie? And I think there's a couple of scenes where it does get ridiculous, but I don't think it ever truly crosses that path. But what's your general thoughts on just James Wan as a kind of a director slash writer producer?
I mean, he mostly annoys me. His creative choices. Even when he does something that I'm geared to like Death Sentence with Kevin Bacon, where he does the vigilante movie, but again, he does this kind of ridiculous, like gritty, over the top sort of action style that I just did not care for at all. And so, his sensibilities are not for me. I didn't see the Aquaman movie. I did he did the first Saw movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a good movie. That was a solid, first foray into that franchise. But yeah, generally his work is not for me. Malignant, I was actually there and I was interested up until the reveal, and I was like, "Fuck this movie, fuck this movie, get it away from me. I fucking hate it." Anyway, so yeah, he's generally not my cup of tea, but he's done things occasionally that have caught my interest.
You wait a second. You didn't like the scene where the guy who's clearly in a suit is like fighting all the people in the prison, and they're doing like a Matrix shit because the evil twin has taken over the body of the other. You didn't love that part of the film?
No, I didn't.
And how domestic violence awakened him from his slumber for like 30 years.
Yeah.
I can't offer much of an opinion on him. Did he do Insidious?
I don't know if he did Insidious. Like I said, he did The Conjuring, and I think he did Annabelle. Yeah, actually, no, he did do the first 2 Insidious movies. He directed both of those.
Oh, okay. I saw Insidious. Apart from that, and Aquaman, I did see that. I have no real knowledge of his cinematic output, so I come into it with I come into it with a slightly less jaded view. I think he's the type of person who would make a film and give audiences what I think that they want, which is like in this case, it's eventually crazed robot type creature thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't fault him for giving audiences something that they would enjoy. But again, I've never seen any of the Annabelle movies. Well, no, I think Curse of La Llorona. That was, I think, the only Annabelle connected film that I saw. That
Or
was only because
Conjuring universe one.
or because my mom wanted to see it. And I was like, it's entertaining enough. I mean, no La Llorona here.
Yeah.
But I never saw any of like the Annabelle movies. I would never got involved in the Conjuring universe apart from maybe La Llorona thing. So I don't know that much about him. But I like the first Insidious, and I'm not big into horror. It's not a genre that appeals to me. But it was entertaining, and same with M3GAN. It was entertaining. I can't fault it for giving me what I paid for. So that's my I have much of a view on James Wan.
So before we start talking about the plot of this film, this is a movie that's set in like kind of like a suburban mountain town. I'm thinking in Oregon is where the setting of this film is. And I thought to myself, how come with all of these like modern horror films, the setting is always some suburban town where, you don't have a whole lot of neighbors or a lot of interactivity. It's like, this is where I kind of miss like movies like Leprechaun in the Hood, where they start like doing things in, like big cities and just like more chaotic. It's like, I think the whole setting of, like these horror films, you gotta be a little bit more creative than that. You gotta start giving us something more than what we've already seen before as far as that goes. But we're talking about a film here which is starred by Allison Williams, who's playing the character of Gemma here. Allison Williams, by the way, is the same age as me, and that shocked me because I thought she was way older than me. And not great. I was just supposed to say not great there. So she's working at this I guess it's supposed to be like a toy company, a robotics company here in the Pacific Northwest, and it's kind of a basic setup. She's working for a boss who's demanding the next big thing because they're falling behind Hasbro, they're falling behind Mattel. We need to come out with the next big thing. We want to be the what did he say? I think like the Steve Jobs or roboticism or something like that. So they decide that, hey, let's go ahead and put this questionable AI program into this doll to save our jobs. And seemingly everything works. They starts bonding with this girl. That's the other thing I forgot to mention, actually. The opening scene is like this young couple and this like little girl are driving in the car. They clearly can't see anything, and they're just like arguing and bickering. And next thing you know, a truck comes, swipes them, kills both the parents. The little girl lives, so now the girl has to live with her aunt, who's obviously Allison Williams' character. So that's kind of the setup. And because Gemma is kind of an absentee, quote unquote, parent or guardian, she doesn't really want to take care of the kids. It's like, I'll just create a doll to do it for me. That way I can keep my job and entertain the little kid and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Well, the AI doll starts adapting kind of the same way that Ultron did in Age of Ultron, and starts looking at the human behavior and human history and starts thinking to itself, it's like, man, I'm way more smarter than you idiots. Maybe who really needs you guys? guys. I can just take over myself and be an evil doll that takes over the entire world. And I wouldn't be shocked if there's some AI program on the internet that pops up when the sequel for this movie comes out. But that's essentially your basic setup here for the film. What did you guys think of the setup for the film? What do you guys think about Allison Williams as an actress? The last thing I can remember seeing her in was Get Out. I don't even know what she's been doing ever since then, but looking a little rough. What do you think there, Rob?
Yeah, take note, feminists. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
You have to either be a present parent and sacrifice your career, or not be a parent and focus solely on your career. That's incredibly demanding. It's this plays itself out by the end of the movie. By the way, this theme. So I mean, I think that's great. I think it's like, yep, you have to like pay attention to this real living girl who needs your nurturing and love and support.
You're literally the only person that she knows who's still alive, you bitch.
Yeah. I thought this was actually a really good setup for the movie because it just evolves from there. Allison Williams as an actress is largely forgettable. She was not the like the plus in this movie. She was not what people go to see in the movie. Getting people to the theater, but she was fine. I thought she was serviceable. She works. She fits the part, but no one's gonna really remember her performance or her character.
Yeah,
I had no idea who she is. I have no idea.
Brian Williams' daughter. It's Brian Williams' daughter.
I suspected as much, but wasn't she on that Girls thing?
Yes.
Girls, yes.
You see, that is my only point of reference to Allison Williams. So I guess I'm still thinking of her as kind of a youngish person. I mean, I knew the name, but I had no idea who she was. And it's curious that you would think that she would actually welcome her brother-in-law's parents taking Cady or Cassie or whatever.
Cady.
Cady. Yeah, taking her to Florida because they were willing to, but she was not. And I guess she was emphasizing how she was unable to relate to her niece because because she didn't want to have her play with those collective, forced her into playing. And I would have thought, why don't you just buy her some toys or bring some other toys from your company? It's not like you can't test them out with your niece. I think they were later on. They were trying to. I think near I don't want to say near the end, but when I think it was after the camp or after the outdoor school, when she's trying to communicate with her more, and I guess that's kind of a message that they're trying to say, adapt, because that's a theme that one of the other characters brought up, that you can't really use the doll to be the substitute parent. You have to be the parent. If you're just going to farm everything out to the doll, then what's the parent going to do? What's the parent there for?
Yep.
So, but honestly, I had no idea who she is. And if she's supposed to be 33, 34,
34.
They're supposed to be 34. She's supposed to be your guys' age. I'm going to say that she, looks. I thought she was older.
I mean, that's like a milfy 42-year-old woman. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she's not an unattractive woman, but like she looks like she's in her early 40s or something.
I would have put her somewhere in her early 40s, and it's not bashing her.
She's only 6 months older than me, so yeah.
So I mean, it's not to besmear her to say that she's a terrible person for looking older. It's just she did. I really don't know who she was. Allison Williams again. I'm still expecting kind of that youngish girl, whom I kind of remember. She was, as for an actress, I was not impressed. I wasn't impressed with a lot of the acting in this movie. So I want to say that it wasn't the best acting I've seen, but it was serviceable for this movie, which again knew what it was. I'm not going to bash a movie for knowing what it is, but acting wise, no, not particularly great. Serviceable.
Yeah, white women, lay off the cigarettes. It's not helping you. Just stop. What did you guys think about the girl who played Cady? Because like I understand what they were going for with her character. They wanted someone who was like sympathetic. It's like, yeah, her parents died. She hasn't really gotten over it, so she's acting out. But she grains a little bit on, I guess, annoying at times too, being a little bit irritating. It's like you try to sympathize with her, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you're pushing it a little too far the other way too. How'd you guys feel about her?
I mean, she becomes kind of like an obstacle in herself, because
Yeah,
she gets attached to M3GAN because she's, she doesn't want to be separated from her new toy and the thing that's allowed her to come out of her shell, because it's actually probably shown interest in her, in that sort of childhood development. But yeah, I think that she's fine. Her parents are dead, so she's supposed to be a little stone faced and removed and distant. But yeah, you're right. She does kind of get annoying because it's like, hey, you don't understand. This thing's trying to kill you. and
yeah.
so and like trying to sort of like convince a child like how grave a situation is sort of, I'm sure it would be incredibly frustrating because it's tied to something that they like, something that is sort of driving their ego, even at such a young age.
I tend not to bash child actors because they're still children at the end. I did not, again, think that she gave the best performance in the film. It was serviceable, though I can report that there were audible gasps when Cady whacks Gemma there in the theater. There were people
Yeah.
who
The
just
slap.
yeah. When she slaps her, there were gasps in the audience, and I guess that's effective. She is a little whiny. Like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to let her go. Like, I'm going. Yeah, but still, she's the adult. Gemma's the adult. You do what she does, and she was getting kind of mean when they were having that almost tussle where they were fighting about having M3GAN on. M3GAN turn off. M3GAN turn back on. M3GAN turn off. M3GAN turn back on. I would say, you know what? You take charge, Gemma. But of course, it's Gemma's fault for not wanting to relate to her. But the actress, the little girl, again, it was a serviceable performance. It was not the best, but I think she did as good a job as she could. And yeah, I have to remember she's still a child, so it's not like we're getting a Jodie Foster uh, level performance here. But it was fine. She, whether she comes back in a sequel, and I hope she doesn't. But if she does, maybe she'll be a little more mature, and handle things a little better, at least her character, or maybe understand that, yeah, maybe this doll is not as good as I cracked it up to be.
Let me ask you guys a question here because I know, like with stories like this, you're only having like a few characters you're focusing on and things of that nature, and I get it, but I feel like Hollywood has really lost the art of developing good supporting characters, and this is a film where everyone outside of Cady and Gemma, who are the two characters we focus on the most, everyone else is just very, very bland. Like they just like they hear your character is basically like you're the male coworker. Just go out there and say some lines, and it's like they give absolutely nothing performances. There's really no one else in this film that really stands out outside, obviously, the doll we'll talk about here in a second. Did you guys feel the same way?
I mean, I just wanted to say I liked the Chinese boss who had an authentic Chinese accent and he didn't shy away from sounding ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that just made me laugh just hearing like, oh, sweet, they're not shying away from the fact that he doesn't speak English very well. Awesome. No, but you're right. There weren't very many notable performances outside of those two. And there doesn't have to be necessarily because they're sort of narrowly focused on the doll and then the direct people involved with it. But it does sort of leave a little bit to be desired because the movie doesn't feel as whole as it could be. It doesn't feel as well as developed as it could be. So that might be certainly something you take away points for, in how you rate it. But yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Well, I think they did as good a job as they could, given that the characters that they were asked to play weren't particularly deep. I mean, I did like Dave. That was the Asian boss
Yeah, yeah,
who was constantly just yelling and going on these fits. Um, Kurt, his mousy type assistant, whom you kind of knew was going to be up to some shady business because it's kind of expected.
yeah.
You've got the two coworkers, appropriately diverse. And yeah, I kind of expected the male coworker to be maybe slightly more wacky, but he just sometimes just sort of stood there, and her female coworker was more the voice of reason. Yeah, they did well, but I mean I think the characters were underwritten, so there was only so much an actor can do with an underwritten part. I think the neighbor was probably the best of the lot, who I
Oh, the
think,
pesticide lady.
Oh
yeah, the
yeah.
pesticide lady, who I think got a raw deal. I'll leave it at that. I think she got a raw deal, and I noticed that it was the same cop that kept coming up to kind of settle their disputes. So I'm going,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess Seattle or wherever this is taking place doesn't have a lot of police officers if they keep sending the same one. And
They
then there
keep
was a
quitting. Yeah, they
yeah.
keep quitting because it's a terrible place to work.
And well, that might explain why the other detective investigating the suspicious deaths, he almost seemed he was chewing gum. Is like, well, sorry for laughing. Like I'm going, I think that actor's trying to do his best to try to liven up a character that's really not supposed to have any real reason for being there. So again, I don't fault the actors for the performances that they gave because I think I'm being generous, and they did the best they could with the underwritten parts that they were handed to. But I thought again, it goes back to the same thing: serviceable, serviceable, serviceable. So I expect that a few of them will come back for the inevitable sequel. And actually, I would not mind, and hopefully they get to develop. It's a shame though that David and Kurt are not coming back. Sorry for spoilers there, but I would have loved, maybe they'll come back as ghosts. I don't know.
The one thing I do want to put over with this movie is the fact that this is a movie that only cost $12 million, and I think the visual effects for obviously the doll M3GAN in this film are actually pretty well done. And considering the fact that we've seen a lot of films that spend upwards of like $300 million on special effects, for a movie for this kind of a small scale for this budget, like the effects of the doll look pretty good and pretty impressive to me. What do you guys think of it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I thought it was creepy. I thought it
Mm-hmm.
I will say this in relation to it. I was unsure of the tone so much of the way through the movie until
Yeah.
the murder started happening, because it's like it's creepy, and it's supposed to freak out an audience, especially in a theater. There's a shock factor to it, but it's like it almost feels like kiddie because it's supposed to be this kid's toy, and this relationship it has with with Cady.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of the movements were would be very, I would describe as very creepy, designed to sort of freak out an audience, just because it's supposed to be human like. It's supposed to be
Yeah.
something imitating humanity, but we all have that intrinsic quality to sort of, this is not right. Something here is not right, and I don't like it. So I thought that they did a good job sort of incorporating the movements with that sort of psychology.
yes, I think that on the whole they did a very effective job in making Megan that appropriately robotic figure that has a vaguely human aspect to it. Maybe that dance that she does before she goes after David is like, how did you get so fluid? Moving. It's supposed to be kind of robotic. How are you more limber than most people are? And then when she chases, was it Brandon or Braden?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, that looks more like a horror film there, because it looks like it's almost a possessed being.
Yep.
But in terms of the overall look for Megan, I thought they did a very good job with the budget that they had. I mean, $12 million when you compare it to some of the special effects in Love and Thunder, you think, boy, they really knew how to spend their money, and they did a good job. I mean, a lot of it. I mean, I don't know a lot of it, but part of it was puppetry. So I guess they maybe used. I don't know if they used old school style effects. It worked. That's the important thing. It
Yeah.
worked for the movie, and again, they did a very good job.
One thing that I do want to put over here is with this film is that I think one of the biggest problem with me. This isn't a very long movie. I think it's only like maybe an hour, like 40 minutes. But it does
Mhm.
feel like that the first two acts are, I think, a little too slow for me because the action really doesn't start until like the third act of the film. And I felt like there should have been a little more something, especially in the second act, that kind of kept the pace going because you know that this doll's going to turn evil, and they kind of like slow cooked it and like slow building it up, building it up, building it up. And I was like, it got to a point where it's like, okay, it's a little too much build up now. I need to see a little bit of some acceleration here before we go like full blown crazy in the third act. What did you guys kind of think of the pacing of this film? Was it a little too slow for you guys, or?
I thought it was all right. I
Yeah,
mean, I knew going in it was a pretty quick movie, so I'm kind of waiting for the plot pieces to come together because it's like they have to show like what does it do like three different presentations with Megan.
yeah.
So it's just kind of like we know that's going on in the background, we know that's coming, and slowly but surely Megan's becoming more homicidal, and she's
Hmm.
picking up more stuff. She's sort of spying on what is it, Gemma?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that the character? So I think you have instances of that. I didn't necessarily feel that it dragged too much. But that doesn't mean it couldn't have been I mean, because I was reading that they had an original ending that they changed. It was supposed to be more gory. It was supposed to be more violent.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of interested just to see what that uncut version looks like. But for me, no, it didn't drag.
No, I don't think it did, and I forgave a lot because the opening was so realistic and amusing when they had that fake perfect pet commercial. I
Oh
thought
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
I thought it was
Furby.
yeah, it was. I thought it was kind of strange and hilarious at the same time. Did I think it dragged? No, not too much. Maybe they could have not gone too much with that fight with her and the neighbor and the neighbor's dog. But no, I mean, considering considering that we have sat through several films in the past few months that have been
Several,
3 hours
yeah,
plus.
3 hour films. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like Babylon, Triangle of Sadness, Tar,
Avatar.
Avatar. Was it Thor? A lot of the Marvel movies are also 3 hours or pushing 3 hours.
Yep.
To see a movie that ran less than two, I think it was been a blessing. So I think on the whole, given how much we've suffered, this was actually much faster paced than some of the other movies that we've seen. But no, not too much. I didn't think it dragged. Only you were waiting for the killing spree, and it did seem to start rather late with the first kill, which could kind of be justified as something of an accident, but kind of not. And it wasn't until we got to the neighbor or the dog actually that we realize, okay, yeah, she's gonna start going on a rampage. But then we get that big rampage at the end, and really that rampage she only kills like two people because the other people live, and she didn't go all Halloween on us.
Yeah.
So that's a plus.
Well, there's the other big thing about this film too that we have to talk about is that this is a PG-13 film. They didn't go rated R with this movie. Do you think that that was a mistake that they should have gone rated R, or do you think that the PG-13 horror worked in this case?
This is always a debate because it depends on the type of movie we're talking about. Because if you have a certain market, you actually make more money with a PG-13. It just depends
Yeah.
how big your market is. For horror movies, it's almost like stabbing, like shooting yourself in the foot, not stabbing yourself in the foot, but maybe that's
Yeah.
more appropriate for the genre. But it's like that's almost what fans want. That's why Terrifier 2 was such a big hit. It was
Hmm.
like it was a horror movie hard R rating.
Yeah.
So I, I don't know. I think that this would have made money no matter what, but I think it might have been a mistake not to go with the R or the unrated cut, just because that's kind of what the fans of the genre are looking for.
Well, actually, I'm going to take a contrary view. I actually like the fact that it wasn't particularly gory and bloody. I actually thought that it actually was, I guess, a case of showing more by showing less. When David gets, run down or when he gets when he gets killed,
Mhm.
I think you saw enough for me, but this is my own personal taste. You saw enough. Same with Kurt, who's also going to get offed. You saw enough for me, but then that again, that's me. I'm not big into gore. I know a lot of people are. Uh, I'm not. Maybe that's one of the reasons I've never seen a Saw movie because I just do not enjoy that. So for me, it was good, and I was surprised also that I guess for some reason people thought this was a kids movie because I saw a lot of children in
Oh
the
no.
theater, and
Oh.
I guess for them it was appropriate to have enough violence, but not too much, not too graphic. Again, I didn't think it was. Yeah, I think it made. I think it probably made. It might have made more money because for some reason people thought it was safe for the kids. And I've been asked, can you bring like a 13-year-old girl to see this? And I said, well, it's PG-13. I think it's not too violent. I mean, even what happened to Braden or Brandon with with
The
the
ears.
ears
Yeah.
with the ears thing. It I You have to look real fast because I didn't see the whole. I mean, I got the impression about the ear, but not like the whole thing. Maybe in the uncensored version, you would see everything. But again,
Yeah.
that's a little. I mean, right or wrong, he's still a minor, and I'm not sure I want to see that. So for me, it was enough. It was enough violence, though again with the neighbor, the pesticide lady, maybe I could have seen a little more. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I guess because she's an adult. I'm not big on seeing the kids suffer a lot. The adults, and I thought she was. I didn't think she was a terrible person. Just for the record, I don't think the pesticide lady was terrible. I mean, she generally loved her dog. So
Yeah,
no,
and then
for
they had a
me,
dog like go
yeah.
Cujo on the doll and the little girl. So I mean that put her over the edge.
Hey, she should have fixed that fence. She should have fixed that fence. Both of them should have fixed that fence a long time ago.
Well, and
Yep.
that's part of the plot too of like
Yeah.
she's her priorities or whatever or her directives is protecting Cady, and so it's
Yeah.
almost like okay, well she's just being overly protective, like a Terminator or something, and then it's like oh she's nope she's just murderous. Okay, there we go.
Though, I mean, again, I wonder if people went to see it because it was PG-13 and they brought their kids. I was puzzled by the number of children that were in the theater, but
Well, look, if they got the message that like you shouldn't have, this friendly of a relationship with technology or things that gather information about you, or I think that that's a wonderful lesson for those parents to teach their kids. I do not think that that's what they took away from it, but here's hoping.
yeah, well, but I think it might have made slightly more money because it was seen as acceptable for tweens and, and teens. I mean,
I was
you weren't
going
to
to
see
see
people
Hostel
decapitated.
when I was 14, so
I always love those questions. By the way, like even on my site to this day, I always get those questions like, "Should I go take my 8-year-old to go see Saw?" And I go, "No."
no.
No, it's like why do you even have to ask? It's like did you not see a trailer, a poster for this movie, or just completely oblivious? It's like some things shouldn't have to be explained to you, but apparently
Well,
this is where we are in
well,
2023.
I'll say this much, Rob. You saw was it Hostel? You said
Yeah,
when you were 14.
yeah.
Hmm.
I'm older than you are, and I still have yet to see a Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th movie. So this will tell you the kind of backgrounds
Yeah,
you and
there's
I
a lot
have.
of good movies you haven't watched. So
Yeah, I mean, I finally saw Halloween. People, come on.
No. You saw Halloween after you watched the last Halloween movie, which was shit, and then you got bullied into watching the first one. So let's not try to
Hey,
rewrite history.
hey, no, I never said I saw the first one first, but at least I saw that one. So, but this kind of just draws what kind of worlds Rob and I come from, and why maybe he would prefer the hard R, and why I was fine with the PG-13. It's just but if it was any comfort, Cassie, I was laughing at The Exorcist. So
Yeah.
Fair enough. No disagreement here, but so let's go ahead and toss it over to our ending here. This is kind of like everything was set up for this moment. We see the doll just slowly start going crazy and start, guess killing people, quote unquote, because there was a few implied deaths in there, but then there was also like a lot of goofy things, like some dancing and then the scene where it's like the Asian guy's like running through the hallway, like this red hallway or something like that. It's just like just passes by one corridor to another. It's like, who the hell built this fucking like building? It's like it seems like this would be a fire ever broke out over here. Like you guys would be screwed. It's like who thought that this was a good idea? But I guess it was there for good comedy. And then we get the ending here where we see Megan go one on one with this other motion capture robot that was kind of teased earlier in the film, and then it comes back towards the end. So we have some robot versus robot action. The dog gets kind of like ripped apart like a Mortal Kombat character, but still like manages to come back from the dead. So the ending I think saved a lot of it. I think if you were kind of like looking for just like the robot chaos, you got it towards the end. You had to get through a lot of other stuff that wasn't really as great to get to that part. But what did you guys think of the ending before we get to our final thoughts of the movie?
I mean, I thought it was really forced, and like I would have preferred them not have it at all. The
Mm-hmm.
Asian boss's death, where he's stabbed through the midsection, and
Yeah.
then the elevator opens, and then Megan kills the guy that was going to steal the secrets or whatever, and like some contrived like love affair, like murder suicide between them, and it was
Yeah.
just like, could you just kill them and not throw this shit in there, please? Like, just give me what I want and stop trying to put extra plot devices in here, please. It was I thought that was such a bad choice, but whatever. It's fine. And then like the robot, it's like they mentioned him so they could bring him back at the end,
Yeah.
So I look again. I try not to take away too many points or stuff like that because at a certain point with this movie, you're either along for the ride or you give up and you're like, "This is stupid. I hate it." So and I went along with the ride. I enjoyed myself. I thought it was entertaining. But some of that stuff really strains storytelling credulity.
Yeah.
Like believability for the audience and stuff. So, but yeah, I thought it was an okay way to end it and. Again, it amused me more than it annoyed me, which wasn't much. So that's my
Yeah.
take on it.
I think part of it is that you were supposed to be slightly amused by the killing, David and Kirk. I didn't get a sense. I mean, I know that she was putting this murder suicide. I mean, I didn't think there was anything more than some kind of guilt about industrial espionage. I didn't think it was about
Yeah.
romance of any kind. And the attempted killing of Gemma's two co-workers, that was like all in or don't go in at all. So I mean that's a rare point where maybe you and I would agree on. Um, I was, I guess, because I'm older than you guys are. I was amused as Megan was for some reason playing "Toy Soldiers" by I think Mika on this piano. I'm going,
Yeah.
I know that song, and then I started going, step by step, we all fall down. I think I didn't quite start singing along. I'm going, I know that song. Why did she pick that particular song to play in the
You know
piano?
why?
No, I know. And that weird dance thing, and kind of like the almost techno type music that's playing as he's running
Mm-hmm.
around the office. And yeah, modern architecture is hideous, so that's why. Um, I guess I didn't understand how Cady had those little gloves that managed to do so. She was kind of, in a sense, fighting M3GAN now with
Yeah.
her hands. It's like, okay, I'm not quite following this, but like Rob, I was kind of rolling with it. I was like, I've accepted this for for all this movie. I'm just going to go with it. And then that big robot thing is fighting them as well. I mean, I was fine. I think that's where it was getting a little camp and maybe a little silly. This whole for me again wasn't a pure horror film. That's why I went with a PG-13 rating. I think it was more like not quite horror comedy, but horror that you could kind of laugh at and not take too seriously. It was more like, this is gonna entertain me. You're gonna get the robots fighting. You're going to get the people getting killed in not too graphic a way, which works for me. But the ending, yeah, I mean, it was nice that the cops showed up and her coworker showed up, but they really didn't pursue the thing about the dog. They really didn't pursue the thing about the neighbor, and I just wondered how M3GAN got down. I guess she kind of was still in the elevator, and nobody noticed when they were cueing all the kids to turn around, and then we need the bodies, but not enough.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, I mean, sometimes I think they might have pulled back too much, even me. But on the whole, you rolled with it, and I kind of accepted it for what it was. I can't follow film again. I can't follow film for entertaining me. I can't follow film for giving audiences like the one that I was with. They enjoyed it. They enjoyed all of it. So it worked, but maybe could have been sometimes some places maybe a little more graphic. And I know it's a strange criticism coming from me, but maybe we could have seen a little bit more. But yeah, you got to have the robots fight, and it was nice at least that it didn't just pop out of nowhere, metaphorically, because it did pop
Yeah.
up.
It just
But
turned into a battle of Tekken just randomly.
yeah, but you have to. But at least they introduced it, even if it was very briefly, so that it wasn't a complete surprise and there was a logic to it. So I
Yep.
appreciated that.
All right, a quick little shout out to Mrs. Flu who joined in and popped in for a little bit of our chat here tonight. And then, yeah, let's go ahead and give our final thoughts here. For me, I can't say that this is a bad movie or a great movie. This one was right down the middle for me. There's things that I definitely liked about the style and a lot of the kind of like the aspects of how they set up the story, kind of the payoff I actually really liked of it. A lot of the things that happened earlier in the movie, it took me a while to like really get into this film. I think they could have done some things a little bit better there. Like I said, you guys didn't have a problem with the pacing, but I felt like it was a little too slow at times. Maybe it could have been a little bit shorter, but look, it's January. I've seen far worse movies on the year than January. This was definitely not one of them. But yeah, I would go ahead and probably give this one maybe like a 2.5 out of 5 if I'm being completely honest with you. It's a fun movie. I don't mind people going out there and saying that, hey, I really enjoyed this film. It's like, look, after the movies we saw last year, especially that fall stretch of some of the terrible movies out there, this isn't the worst movie that you're going to go see in theaters right now. So if you want to go check out this film, I say go for it. It's a 2.5 out of me. Like I said, things that I like, things that I didn't like, it's just right down the middle for me. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely worth seeing in the theaters, especially after the crappy year that 2022 was.
Yeah.
But it's a weird thing to say this, but it's really a movie about motherhood in the sense that Gemma
Okay.
has to become a mother to Cady, and basically what's in the balance if she doesn't. And so it really is a life and death thing about becoming the person you need to be to not only and again it's more metaphor than anything, but she has put all her heart and soul into this doll, and now and it's like, so she's created this thing, she's getting advancements at work, all of these things, and all the while Cady's suffering. She's not getting, we see what is it, the social worker shows up and is like judging her because she doesn't have toys to play with, anything like so. I really like that. I like that that it had that focus, and then it just is a fun like killer doll movie. I think it has a lot of like science. I think it has more sci-fi aspects to it than straight horror. It's
Mm-hmm.
more of a thriller. It's more of a these are the dangers of being too close to the technology that you spend all your time with and give all your information to. So I thought it had a lot of interesting components like that to sort of comment on the current moment that we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
I will say though that I think that it's more interesting as a theoretical idea, versus the execution of the movie itself. So I give it a 3 out of 5. I found it entertaining. I enjoyed my time with it. It's a little lacking in its a more complex story, but for what it is, I thought it was absolutely a success. And I would definitely say go check it out.
Well, I would say this is not a well acted movie, and I would say that it's no, certainly not the a great movie, but it is a very entertaining one. I found myself enjoying it. Again, I was not bothered by the lack of gore, but that's a personal thing. I took it as, like I say, a romp, a good-natured film that you don't take seriously, and people accept that the premise is going to be a little wacky. So you roll with it, and you just watch it, enjoy it. You don't give it a lot of thought. I'm kind of in a similar mindset though when Rob was talking about the kind of the idea about motherhood. This is you can read that. You can see this is a story about having to put the needs of the child ahead of your own. Even if something as small as letting them play with a collectible, you could find another one like that, or just get her toys and just connect with the child. But for the most part, I didn't find a great deal to dislike about this movie. Yes, some of the performances aren't the greatest, but again, I would put that more on the characters that they were asked to play. I enjoyed it. I'm going to probably give it a 3 as well. It was a romp. I have no complaints about it. It entertained me. I would recommend this to people. In fact, I already have recommended it to my aunt and uncle to see the Spanish dubbed version if you
Yeah.
can't see it. And yeah, so it's not too gory, it's not too violent. I think they would like that. Or yeah, I wouldn't take my kids to see this. I don't think this is a kids movie, and how it's going to become one, I don't know. But people bring up Chucky in comparison. I'm assuming that the first two movies started out being more horror, and then it kind of devolved into kind of camp.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to say since I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any of those. So
Listen. I know that people will probably throw me under the bus for saying this. The second and third Child's Play are better than the original.
okay,
So
I'm not gonna
anyway,
argue too much.
I don't think you're gonna watch. I don't think you're gonna watch them anyway, Rick.
no,
But just throwing that
no,
out there.
probably not. And I
Okay.
think there's a TV show as well. I will say that there is an opening for a sequel, and I hope they take it. There is a logical way to get a sequel, even though Megan gets literally ripped to shreds. So there is a way that it can be done. I certainly think that it's. I that they do a sequel, but maybe not make a franchise out of this. We don't need a whole franchise out of this. I think maybe one, two, possibly two more of these. Yeah, it's going to get a
Well,
three.
it's made $46 million so far, a $12 million budget. So you are getting a sequel, whether you like it or not.
We
Yeah.
are, and there is a logical way. I actually thought there's a logical way to get a sequel without having to go through a lot of hoopla. Yeah, so it's a 3. It's an enjoyable. It's a lark. It's a romp. Yeah, go see it. Just don't take your kids to see it. That's my only recommendation here. Anyone under 13, don't take them. This is not a kids movie. Come to the Puss
Yeah,
in
anyone under the required MMP rating, do not go see this movie unless you have a guardian or a parent with you. Then it's okay.
Yeah. Don't listen to these squares. Just go see whatever you want. If you're cool. No, seriously though. No. Look. I was taken to see Starship Troopers when I was 8.
Yeah.
Excuse me,
Theaters,
I was
so.
taken. I was taken to see Basic Instinct. When I was probably like in elementary or middle school. So, yes, it is a hip to be square. So I'm proud to be square.
Yeah, well, I saw the crying game at a drive-through in the backseat of the car, so beat that one.
I'm sorry.
Hey, you're talking to someone who's seen a lot of those pretty violent Mexican movies when he was a kid, and the drive-in. So
Yeah.
I think I've got you guys beat.
Well, I tell you what, we're wrapping up this show right here, but next week we're going to do something that we haven't done before that should be very, very interesting, because next week we're reviewing not one, not two, but 3 movies. However, we're now not seeing the same movie. So here's how it's going to work next week. Our buddy Rick here is going to see the film Plane, which is the Gerard Butler film, which looks to be schlocktastic, as more I could say about that movie. And then Rob is going to go to the movie theaters and watch A Man Called Otto, the Tom Hanks film, the Oscar bait Tom Hanks film. And then I will be reviewing House Party, the remake of House Party with LeBron James. So we're going to get 3 entirely different perspectives on 3 movies next week. Should be a fun show for everyone there. So I'm going to go ahead, before we wrap things up, give you guys a chance to promote anything that you wanted to promote. I know you guys have been working on some written stuff. I know Rob has a YouTube channel that he's going to start cooking here soon. So let's start with Rick. What do you got coming up, Rick?
Nothing much. Just trying to finish up some of my other reviews. I've just posted. I posted my reviews for Avatar Waterworld. I just posted my review for the Whitney biopic. Hopefully, getting through Hollywood Babylon. And yeah, I'm just going to keep trying to clear out my DVDs. I'm just getting ready for watching more movies and trying to find a booking for Plane. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have much in terms of things to work on, but it's always fun to talk film. So that's it. That's my spiel. Thanks for watching.
All right, Rob, what you got coming up?
Yep. So I have reviews of M3GAN and The Pale Blue Eye coming out this week. Should have them out by Wednesday. And then I'm also starting my series of John Woo movies with, I think it's called A Better Tomorrow. I believe that's the first movie. That shows how little research I've done on the topic. But yes, I'm going to be starting that soon. And, I'm just going to have regular reviews coming out. I'm not sure what I'm doing with my YouTube channel or if I'm doing anything with it. But yeah, I'm just really excited to kind of get back and engage more with movies through writing and just kind of not being such a dickhead on Twitter. So, but yeah, meanwhile, you can check me. You can check me out on my Twitter there, and I'll see you guys around.
All right, then, and let you guys know what we have coming up here on the channel. Tomorrow night, episode 31 of the Barroom Podcast, we're going to be talking about Vince McMahon coming back to the WWE and the possibility of them selling the company to a massive media corporation, or maybe they'll sell it to Saudi Arabia. We'll talk about that in good detail tomorrow. Dana White got in trouble last week because he slapped his wife at a Mexican nightclub, and MMA media are absolutely pissed that he has not been canceled yet. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Adam Sessler basically just said fuck you to all gamers. He said he doesn't need you guys, so he's having a nice go around with G4's second death. People are now saying that Dave Bautista is the best wrestler turned actor of all time. We're gonna have to talk about that one tomorrow. And then, in case you guys didn't know, the Golden Globes are apparently on a Tuesday now, so the Golden Globes are actually going to be on tomorrow. So maybe we'll tune in for some Golden Globes action and see who wins some awards tomorrow night while we're on the show. So we'll look forward to all that coming up on Tuesday, tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Wednesday, I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the Black Pill stream. I'll keep you guys posted on that one. But Thursday, I will be on with Comics Division, and we're going to be talking about the entertainment news of the day. So I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about Adam Sessler and a few other things this Thursday night. So check me on Comics Division's stream on Thursday. And then I think it's next Saturday, actually, is our UFC stream. I don't know what the hell they're going to be doing on that UFC stream, because I believe they're supposed to be in Brazil next Saturday, and Brazil's kind of going crazy at the moment. So I don't know if they still plan on doing that show down there. If not, then congratulations, good luck, I guess is the best thing I can say for them there. So that's everything that we got coming up. And like I said, next week we'll be reviewing 3 movies here Monday night on the movie review stream. So a shout out to Cassie, who joined us here in the chat tonight. Shout out to Alex versus Evil, which I'm not sure if you want to say he was based for slapping his wife in Mexico. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. Mrs. Flu, who joined us tonight, and Oznot, and everyone else who joined us. Thank you for joining us for another Monday night. Hopefully, we'll see y'all tomorrow night, but we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. So, we're going to hit the spring yard. We will see you guys tomorrow. Good night. Good luck. Adios. Bye-bye.